Part 2, algorithm of dating. So I love to give live feedback, live updates, and in my first video, I was talking about how for myself, when it comes to dating, there aren't necessarily any red flags that stick out right away to me, because in the beginning, the people who come to me for some reason are very polished, they're very well spoken, they know who they are, at least it seems like that on the surface. And what I've learned is words do not matter. You have to follow the action. You have to trust your instinct. And in this situation, in the video, I was talking about there's two types of guys you meet and different energies. And one I was saying, oh, I met long distance and they seem cool and whatnot. For me, with their energy, we were talking and it's ended, but I want to say why it's ended. We were talking and getting to know each other and everything seemed really good in the beginning. The reason that I always encourage asking questions and using discernment is how you're going to then figure out what energy is actually there for you or what energy is actually trying to ego date. Ego dating looks like I have a type, I have a preference. This is what I usually go for. This is what I usually like. There's nothing wrong with that, which I've said before. But if your only preference is this person has to fit in this box for them to be my person, or this person has to fit into this box because when I said how they make you feel, if what you need is the situation, how it went down, talking to this person for a month, everything seems great, we're doing the good mornings and the good nights and FaceTiming and checking in on each other, and everything seems really cool. But something inside of me was like, you need to ask more questions. Just keep asking questions, because even though this person knows how to talk, they don't feel emotionally available. And even though they were showing up consistently every day and telling me things like, oh, let's get off the apps and let's, pause that. And, he said something like, I was like, you can keep talking to other people. Like, I was very adamant about it. I was like, you can keep talking to other people. Like, we're not together. We're just getting to know each other. Oh, don't think those negative thoughts or don't talk like that. And I'm just like listening to them and I'm like, words mean nothing to me until you prove it to me. And so as this continues to go on, I'm just in my head like, I am not committed to this person because something still feels off. And so as we continue to talk and we're getting to know each other, a while ago they mentioned to me that they love bad boys and that they clicked on my profile because I look like a nice guy. Now, normally this wouldn't throw up any red flags to me because in my mind it's like, people grow up. People can recognize where they used to date a certain type and maybe it's not good for them anymore. In this situation, this person did not, and they still are ego dating, where they said they needed somebody that was more masculine and dominant type personality because that's what they need. I am not offended by that because I am very loving, very kind, very sweet. I do not have the energy to try to be performative for anybody's libido, right? To go around acting all like, yeah, I'm tough. I ain't got nothing to say, yeah, bro. That's to each their own. If people love the nonchalant, I encourage you to get that. But the one thing that they told me prior to that was they got no emotion. They weren't vulnerable, they weren't open. So instantly I knew, I was like, this person is still chasing an old timeline. And it's gonna blow up in their face because if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, what do we call that? Insanity. And so I was so thrilled where, again, we were just texting and they were out with some friends and something just told me, I was like, just keep pressing this person a little bit. Just ask them about their emotions and how they feel and what they're going through. And I could tell that they were getting overwhelmed. And I want you to remember this, men and ladies. If asking questions overwhelms someone, then how are they gonna be when stuff really goes down? How are they gonna actually handle energy with you when you actually have issues if they can't handle questions now and there's no issues, right? And so I was just asking really simple questions like, how do you feel? What are you going through? Tell me, let's do a check-in. And they were just like, this is really overwhelming. This is too much, because they would always give me answers that were really cookie cutter, like, I just feel like I like this and I like you for these reasons, and I'm listening and I'm listening. But the thing that I've always noticed that, again, these aren't initial red flags. When someone's not asking you questions back, pay attention to that. Be mindful of that. Because if someone is not intrigued enough to learn you, they're not going to ask questions. They're not going to dig. They're not going to try to find out. They're going to go with whatever you say. They're going to go along with whatever script you give them. And they're going to read that script really well. And again, after this situation happened, I wasn't upset with them. I'm not upset with them. I still have nothing but love for them. But I am too old to play that game of, you need a daddy because you didn't have a daddy. Or you need a mommy because you and your mom don't get along. Now for this person, not putting their business out there, it didn't sound like they were very close to their father. And I knew this going into it. And even in my past relationships, I've known like, okay, as a healer, I'm gonna call in a lot of wounded souls who want that parental figure. They're gonna be attracted to the stature, which again, I'm 6'5", they're gonna be attracted to the look. That is what it is. But my energy is naturally mother energy. I am naturally feminine in how I care for people and how I give to people. And I know this, and I tell people this from the jump. And they're like, no, I can handle that. And oh, I like that. And when people hear feminine, most people again associate it with someone acting a certain way or talking a certain way. I'm not offended by that either. I don't mind if people express their feminine energy to the extreme of the spectrum where it's the nails and the colors and the voice change and all that. And that doesn't bother me. But what does intrigue me is when people say they need a certain type of energy to understand how to love themselves, but they continually reject that type of love. And you're gonna meet these people again where they say like, I want somebody who can like keep me in line and tell me, help me grow and all this. You're looking for a dad. If you need me to keep you in line, that means you need somebody to check you because you don't know how to check yourself. If you say, oh, I just really want somebody who knows how to love and hold me and be my peace, you're looking for a mom energy. You need somebody to coddle you. Listen to the words because the words don't mean anything coming out their mouth, but the reverse effect of what they're saying has meaning. I know that sounds confusing, but contextually listen to what I'm saying. I could say, I love apples. Doesn't mean I love apples. What I'm saying is, I enjoy being healthy. I enjoy trying to eat clean. That's all I hear when I hear somebody say certain things. I go deeper into what they're saying versus what they're actually trying to tell me on the outside. And this will get exhausting, trust and believe. It's so exhausting to try to read behind the lines, but it's necessary because when you learn how to do it, it's what makes your discernment so much stronger. So anyways, we fast forward, this person, they're out partying with their friends, whatever, something feels off to me. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep asking my questions. And then eventually, they respond back the next morning with this long message of like, I really enjoy your personality and I really like who you are as a person, but when I first met you, you came off really masculine, but then as I got to know you, you started to become really feminine. You see how the words don't make sense? If you love me for who I am and my personality, then me coming off feminine would not bother you. So right there, it's a contradiction of words. And I knew that, so I just responded back like, listen, it sounds like you like performative men. You want somebody who's gonna act all tough and rough and puff their chest out and make you feel safe, and you need some physical protector. If that's what you want and desire, please go find it. Please go find someone that you want to treat you in a way that I would feel is derogatory. Like if you have to be performative about, again, people love it. I'm not gonna talk about how people love the rough coitus and people like to be choked out and smacked and all that. If that's hot to you, that's okay. I'm not gonna be that person. I don't like choking people. I don't like smacking you. Don't get me wrong, I'm assertive. I like to have fun. I know how to take control in the bedroom if that's what it is, but that's not what I'm into. That's what they were into. I'm also not gonna be that type of person who's going to shut off my emotions because you don't know how to talk about yours. That's not what I'm into. I like to be emotionally vulnerable. I like to be emotionally consistent because to me, that tells me that you are mature enough to handle all aspects of life and not just the ones that turn you on or make you feel safe because you feel unseen still. And I am not upset when it comes to the life of being an LGBTQ plus IA individual because there's so much of this conversation that people still feel like they have to hide themselves. Because that's what it really comes back down to. When you're not secure with your own masculine and feminine energy, you will try to hide behind these egoic type of titles of what their person is supposed to look like, talk like, and act like. And that's always gonna come back and bite you in the butt, because you're gonna always be dating some energy behind a mask. You're not actually going to be meeting the person that could really change your life, grow with you, be there for you, love you through thick and thin, because you're so focused on what they have to act like for the rest of the world for you to feel safe or not judged. Straight people go through it too, all the time. You know what I mean? Like, everyone wants to feel seen and feel safe and not feel judged. But if you're only doing it because of aesthetics, like people say, oh, I want somebody with a beard and rough cut and this and that. And yes, that gets everybody's, groins tingling, okay? It's hot. There are certain looks that are just attractive. But then as you get to know that person, are you going to then become demeaning to them because they don't fit a stereotype? Are you then going to then say they're dismissed because they don't fit this role that you want them to play for you, because you yet do not know who you are? This is why I say you're not gonna always see the red flags, because there's gonna be a lot of people out there where they're so used of the suit of armor that they carry and that they put on, and the facade of what they think they should be or what they think they want. And then when they start to get to know people, that mask slips off. And then you get to really see the person behind the mask. Plenty of people do this. Like, people still talk about celebrities this way, where they come off like playboys and playgirls, and then they see them with somebody that they really love or care about, and they see them soft and gooey and ooey, and they're like, oh, you a simp. Oh, this sus. And it's like, no, they're in love. No, they get to be vulnerable. They get to be who they really want to be, because this person's not judging them based on aesthetic appeal of what the world wants them to be. Do you understand? This is why when we talk about representation matters, it matters. If everyone is always trying to fit this stereotypical facade of what they want people to like them for, everyone's done it. Think about the typical guy who is super skinny and then wants to get buff, and then he starts getting buff and his attitude changes and he feels all tough looking. He's still that sensitive loved guy, right? That's not gonna change. And even being slim and skinny doesn't mean that you're sensitive. Maybe in your mind you really are super masculine, but you wanna represent that energy on the outside. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't get it twisted, you're still a human being. You're still gonna have their moments of softness, vulnerability, and needing to be in your feminine energy. It's natural. It's not gonna go anywhere. And it is really exhausting that in this new time of age, we're still fighting the stereotype against feminine energy. Like, it is literally crazy how much we have been indoctrinated into the patriarch so much that we believe men have to act a certain way, women have to act a certain way, even within a world where none of that should matter. Especially as a gay man, gender norms should not matter, but people still want them to be a certain thing because this is what makes them feel better. And so I always tell people, you have to be really mindful, again, of egoic dating. If you're only focused on what your ego wants, they gotta be this tall, they gotta talk like this, they gotta walk like this, they have to have this type of job, you can meet that person, but guess what? These same people will come back later and be like, well, this is not what I expected. Okay, well, they talk to me a little crazy, or they treat me a certain way that I don't like, or you'll get used to it. If that's what you wanna do, go for it. Then there's people where you see like, it don't make sense to you, the match don't make sense, it doesn't line up, but the persons, when you talk to them, when you're doing it for soul dating, they're like, oh my God, this person is the most beautiful soul I've ever met. Even if this is not the type I've dated in the past, that's okay, because this person is everything I've ever wanted and more. They love me unconditionally. I love them unconditionally. When I say unconditionally, yes, there are conditional aspects of love, but unconditionally means you can get to the point where you can stop being shallow and say, I can see all of them and I accept all of them for who they are. Because even if there's parts of them that I'm not normally turned on by, there are so many other parts of them that I am turned on by, that I am excited about, that do get me going. I always tell people, nothing is actually 100%. No one will ever be 100% masculine all the time, and no one's gonna be 100% feminine all the time. It's not possible. We are literal human beings. We are meant to be both. We are the yin yang. We represent equally who we are as receptive and giving. And if you don't know how to comprehend that, then you're going to keep getting lost in translation in the dating world. Again, the algorithm is not hard to figure out. What's hard to figure out is the byproduct that you keep creating. The algorithm is very simple. If you show up and you're consistent and you're available and you allow yourself to grow with someone, then love will always work. But if you show up and you're consistent and you're available, but then you have these prerequisites to what it needs to be, well, now you're changing the structure of the equation, right? Because the formula is already written. But if people have these things where they want to nitpick and pull it apart to fit these type of social standards, then now you're going to get a different byproduct. You're going to get a different type of energy. We've seen it before. People who want the roughneck, the hood dude, okay? And then out of nowhere, he's beating you up. Because he has no emotional discipline. He doesn't know where to put all those emotions that you're giving him. So for him, when he's frustrated, instead of expressing themselves or her, they want to hit you. Because that's the only thing they know how to do. I gotta put this energy somewhere. That's scary. The same way with the same type of person where they never speak, they never express. Oh, I like the stoic, quiet type. Okay, and then one day they're gonna blow up and yell at you and explode, and you'll be like, they've never talked to me like this, because it has to go somewhere. It's normal, it's natural. So it's best to try to meet yourself in the middle and meet people in the middle who can say, listen, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna have moments where I fall apart and I'm gonna need you to just give me my space to pick myself back up, or I'm gonna fall apart and I'm gonna need assistance with you helping me pick myself up. That's normal in relationships. There's gonna be times where you're gonna feel like you need to be super independent. And then realize that being super independent is not healthy in a relationship, because you have to be able to rely on each other to make sure that you're banking ideas off each other. So with all that said, I never get upset when things don't work out in the dating world for me, because I've learned that in the spiritual world, when you can see people, they're not gonna like it. Like, I could have settled a long time ago. I want people to understand that. I'm not single because it's hard for me to date or it's hard for me to find someone. I just refuse to settle for somebody's BS. I'm not about to sit here and pretend to be something that I'm not to make your ego feel important. Again, the ego is not to be attacked, but the ego will create delusions around what you think you deserve if you don't know who you are. And if you're still stuck in what I call your dark night of your shadow, if you're still stuck in the shadowy world of control and power and lust, you're gonna always seek out partners who are going to fulfill those things of you that you think you desire. Now, some people live off of this for the rest of their lives, and I say, to each their own. I'm not upset about it. There's a lot of couples who are together for years who literally live off of that distorted energy, and we see plenty of them in their toxic love everywhere. But there are people who understand that, like, listen, when I was younger, I thought that this is what I wanted. I thought this is what I needed. And then I had to learn how to love myself. And when I learned how to love myself, I realized I don't need that type of energy. Even when I was younger, don't get it wrong, I went through that phase of life where I was like, I need a masculine man, and he gotta dress this way, act this way. And then I got older and realized these masculine men are the most softest, docile men I've ever met when they're with me. Because I realized that my energy outpowers theirs. I out-daddy them and out-mama them. So for me, it was like, there's never ever gonna be someone who's 100% masculine. Even when I meet the feminine people, I started dating feminine guys a long time ago. And I realized even the most feminine men are very masculine minded because they want control. They want it to be a certain way. They need the aesthetic to look a certain way. So for me, I was like, wow, okay. So you're way more masculine. Even though you're feminine presenting on the outside, you're way more masculine in how you move and how you think. This is why I said the straight role is fascinating, because I've always said that. My mother is the masculine one in the family. She's feminine, but she's masculine. She runs everything. Everybody does what she says, the way she says to do it. The men, they go along with it. Yeah, they look masculine, but they're soft, they're puddle. They have to do what she says. And that's just what it is. So I think when you see stuff culturally, again, especially for people who live on the spectrum of orientation and identity, trying to figure that part of you out becomes a huge hurdle in dating, because a lot of it is so stereotypical of this is what the feminine does, this is what the masculine does. But it's like, well, we're both. If you're saying that you're non-binary or you're bisexual or gay or any of that or lesbian, you're not ever going to be one over the other. So even if you feel like presentation-wise, you want to be one over the other, it's gonna come out somehow, some way. Like if you're always super masculine looking, acting, those are usually the people who are the most emotional. Literally, they have the most emotions. The ones who are fluffy and frilly and pretty and light, those are the ones who probably have the least amount of emotion sometimes, because they're like, listen, logically speaking, I can get whatever I want. So I don't need you, I don't need this. And they know that. The masculine's like, I'm performative, I gotta protect, I gotta provide, I gotta do all this. So they'll love me and they'll stay. That's feminine energy. So it's like, it's all distorted on some level of, when people see that they can't manipulate you, they're gonna try to come for your character. That's what I've learned very easily and very quickly. So I'm making this video because, again, I'm not offended by what happened. I find it entertaining that there's people who still come for your character because they don't know how to hold it. And they even admitted it with the situation that I just came out of. They're like, I've never met anybody like you. I don't know how to actually deal with both sides of you because I'm not used to it. I think that was the most honorable thing that they could say and the most vulnerable that they could be, where they're saying like, I'm not used to truly dealing with feminine energy, which is being soft, being available, being open, being honest about what I truly desire and need. I'm used to the masculine, which unfortunately has become very performative, very much an act, very much I have to try to hold it all in just to appease society because no one wants to really see me be vulnerable, which is sad. It really is sad that there's a lot of our men out here and women who feel that they can't be vulnerable, that they can't be open enough to just be honest about what they truly need. Because at the end of the day, a body's a body, parts are parts. They're still gonna work the same, in and out, in and out. So that doesn't change anything. What changes is your mental capacity of what you feel you desire and what you want to be attached to it when someone treats you a certain way, whatever that looks like. Because a lot of the time when you're doing ego dating, it comes back to the bedroom. It's not real. Like, again, I'm not saying that you're not allowed to have a wonderfully wild and fun, bedroom life. But if all you're dating for is for someone on how they're gonna treat you in the bedroom, not how they treat you in the outside world, not how they treat you every day. Because again, there's a lot of people, I'm sorry to say it, but Nick Cannon got a lot of babies because he needed to be performative. He's trying to prove his masculinity. Everyone kept saying that he was soft and he was goofy and all this. So he had to go out here and have a bunch of babies to prove that he's a man, that he's masculine. Do you understand how performative that is? How exhausting that is? If he was just honest about himself, he even says it, like, I should have just been with Mariah, but he couldn't handle that her energy was more masculine than his. Let's just keep it real, call it what it is, because she is a boss. She knows how to run stuff. She has her own empire. So even if he said we equally yoked, whatever that meant, he still didn't know how to be equally yoked. So he had to sabotage it. Because if you are equally yoked, you see the beauty in both your partner's masculine and feminine energy. He would have saw her feminine energy, which he wanted to conquer and get, and he did. But when it came to her masculine energy, it was too powerful for him. So he had to sabotage it. And that's why they are what they are. So there's plenty of more examples like that out there, where you can see people where, had they just allowed themselves to be soft enough to let somebody else be in charge or run the energy the way they want to run it and not try to control the person, then they would have really beautiful, long-lasting relationships. But most people don't know how to do that. So instead, they're going to go back to the old karmic cycle. They're going to repeat the patterns and they're going to do it over and over and over again. So this is more or less, the part one was more about the superficial, the stuff on the outside of looking for. When you're looking through red flags and gaps, and I talk about the gaps where sometimes you can feel that there's some distance there, but you don't know what the distance is. And you don't see any flags in front of you because they're not showing you any, they're hiding them, right? And then you get so close to them and then all of a sudden you just fall into a hole because there's a gap of them missing, and you look up and the red flag is floating over you because that whole part of them has never been developed. That's what I mean when I say you have to have discernment to learn that words are not always going to line up. People telling you how they feel and what they want is not always going to be the truth. I've been on plenty of apps and met plenty of people in person, because it doesn't change. I know a lot of people say, well, get off the app to meet someone in person. I've met plenty of people in person where they say, this is what I want, this is who I am, And then as you get to know them, that mask starts to slip and they're like, actually, I don't know how to handle your emotions. I don't know how to handle your energy. I don't know how to handle the way that you carry yourself because I'm used to people bending to my will, doing what I want, them trying to appease me because this is what I said that I desire, and they've run out of their way because of how I look or what they think I can get from me. Which again is really sad. That's why I appreciate that God gave me all of it. Intelligence, looks, brains, all of it. Why? Because I know I'm cute. And I know that I'm a catch. So I'm never gonna feel like, oh my God, woe is me. No one wants me. No, people want me. That ain't a problem. They don't know how to handle me once they have me. And you do have to know how to handle someone. Like someone will hear that word and think, well, I gotta handle you. Why? Because in all love relationships, you're handling someone. It's like a baby. You have to know how to handle them. You can't just be rough with a baby and throw them around because you can hurt them. It's the same with your partners. You have to know how to handle them. You have to know that you have the capacity to love them the way that they need to be handled, and not just based on what you need physically, because it will become exhausting eventually. And like I said, if everything in your life is based on, again, what people make you feel like, then you're literally just walking around like a kid. And I know that sounds sad, but that's what kids do. Until they understand how to comprehend that they can't get everything their way, they're gonna walk around and be upset that, well, I feel upset. Well, I feel mad. Well, I feel sad. Okay, well, feeling sad doesn't stop the fact that you gotta go clean your room. Feeling mad doesn't mean that you can't go around hitting people. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I was saying just how you feel alone is not enough. You gotta go with how do you heal. So if you know how to heal, that same feeling of, well, I'm mad. Okay, well, I know you're mad, but how are we gonna fix this situation? That gives them the moment to think, well, I'm mad because I'm not getting my way, but they asked me to do something that I know I have to do. So maybe if I just do this thing that I know I need to do, that's going to allow me to not be upset with them, and they're gonna not be upset with me, and I can heal from that situation. That's the full spectrum. That's how you're supposed to use the algorithm of love. But most people will never get there because they're underdeveloped. And so again, like I said, this is not an attack on anyone. Everybody that I meet them for a reason. It's always a moment to let myself know that this was a karmic cycle that I had to close, and I'm happy I closed it. That's why I always tell people, go head first into these. Don't run from them. Because when you know how to conquer them, you come out so much stronger, so much smarter, so much wiser, and then you can recognize it faster. Because the last time I met someone like this, we dated almost 8-9 months. And then they basically turned on me and was like, you're not what I desire. You're too controlling, which I wasn't. They were just not used to somebody who didn't let them get their way all the time, where everything had to be their way. And if you said no to anything they said, they'd get upset. They had a bunch of yes men around them too. And they were always cackling, yeah, whatever you say, whatever you say. And I was the only person that was like, no, that doesn't make sense. Sorry, it's not whatever you say. And it wasn't me being contrarian either. It was just me being honest. And they told me later, you were right. I had so many yes men that I didn't know how to believe you because I thought that you were just trying to go against me. And then I realized that you were actually trying to protect me. Because that's what real masculine energy does. And so now when I met this new person, it didn't make it past a month because I knew in my gut that I was like, if I don't keep asking questions and making sure that this person, and again, it's not a test, but it sort of is, unfortunately. And everyone does integrity tests. Everything that you have, from your car to the phone, everything has to go through an integrity test to make sure that it can survive. And if you cannot make it through the integrity test, you can't come to the next level with me. It's just that simple. So again, I want you all to just learn how to trust your gut instinct. When your gut says do it a certain way, and if somebody can handle it and they're not offended by it, and they find a way to love you through it, that's the person to continue to keep kicking it with. Because again, life will hit you hard one day, and you're gonna need somebody who can actually stand there with you and be a nice fucking foundation with you. Excuse my language, hopefully you don't get me for that. But you want somebody to really be there for you and to hold you in a place that they understand, like, this is what true masculine energy is. Someone who's not gonna run when things fall apart. And real feminine energy will be there to care for me and get me through and hold me through and hold themselves through at the same time. So, as always, thank you for joining me along this spiritual journey. Thank you for joining me along this journey of being a human, because again, it's not gonna get any easier. It's just gonna become you're going to get more clarity. And the more clarity you get, the more wisdom you have, and then life becomes a lot easier to navigate. As always, thank you. Check me out on my website, epicenity.org. Everything links below. As always, I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah.